Okay, I guess we don't necessarily need to have too many introductions here. Is there anyone that doesn't know what this gentleman do here in the auditorium? No, right? We are the goats of Deepin, or the ghosts of Deepin as well. That would work. Let's say let's get started. This panel, we're going to be talking about community and tokens. Let's try maybe talking about things that is just not everyone trying to help each other as well. I think that's one thing that I like to talk on the panels and not try to be, okay, we're changing the world, but there's a lot of things that I think projects do wrong. They learn and try to think about, from here there's WeatherXM, IoTeX project with tokens. You guys are going to be doing TG quite soon. So I guess it's also interesting to learn from this time, right? Learn from people that came before you that made mistakes, made things right. I think a lot of the projects in Deepin have a lot to thank for the mistakes that Helium made. They made a lot of mistakes. They made a lot of good things as well. And I guess a lot of things that we are here because of them. So it's quite interesting, like the grandfathers. But yeah, it's nice to learn from their mistakes, right? And I would like to understand from your perspective, how do you see the importance of the tokens and the community together, and how the tokens drive the community and vice versa?
Should I go?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was thinking when you said about Helium before, yeah, I was thinking that we tried to avoid some of Helium's mistakes, but we made our own. So I don't know in the end what would have happened if Helium wasn't there. So in our project, the simple version of what was the use for the token is acting as an incentive to coordinate deployers of weather stations to do a good job and to deploy the stations where we want them. And at the same time is acting as the you could say the supermarket coupon that gives the ability to anyone who's holding it to to get some goods with a discount or for free. And those goods are weather data or weather services. So we have Web2 customers who don't want to use or don't know how to use supermarket coupons. So we have our company in the middle doing that conversion. So we're buying back our token using the revenue from the data sales. But in practice, what's happening is basically enterprises have to buy and spend our token in exchange for weather services, for improved weather forecasts that were generated from the data that was produced by the stations who were deployed by the individuals who put the hardware in their roofs. And yeah, that's the main use for the token. I mean, following that, there's a bunch of other mechanisms that we're building or we have already built. But I can unpack that if you ask me more.
Aaron, you're not one of the co-founders of IoTeX, but you've been with them for quite some time, right? Can you see in your experience how does the community in IoTeX, the token work together?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So IoTeX, I've been there for the last 3 years, and it's been really interesting to see the growth in the community, and especially trying to expand beyond the Deepin borders, starting to move into AI. And we're just such big proponents of this Deepin space and always trying to propel everyone else. So I can see the mistakes from the Heliums and the others before us. And then it's really interesting, this panel that we got here, because we all have different kinds of communities here. I can't wait to hear Daba speak about their community and their deployments. Like I spent an hour speaking with Atlas there just about like Daba and how unique it is, and maybe that's the future of Deepin, maybe it's not, but like I can't wait to see. And either way, I know that we're going to all be building on top of whatever mistakes are made and continue to iterate this together as a team. But I will say one thing that we're doing at IoTeX, our newest launch here with this entrance into the AI space, we're really trying to follow something similar to what the BitTensor model is and launching something similar to the subnets. We're launching Realms. So trying to bring these Deepins together again with our ethos of bringing these projects together, because I think that you bring like a Spexy and you add that to a Wingbits, and you add that to a Hive mapper, put this data together, and the insights that you can get are very, very valuable. And that's what we're trying to do in IoTeX, and it's a very, very, very difficult very difficult data problem to solve. But we're going to try and tackle that head on. That's what we're trying to do with realms. And you mentioned the token. There's going to be a token for each one of these realms that are very focused on whatever the demand is for that particular use case. So there could be like something focused on mobility or transportation. There's going to be a token for that. And the contributors to that, whether it's like a Wingbits or a Spexy or a Daba, are going to be incentivized. And that's how we're trying to build a community with other deepins and then bring their communities along.
What was the question again about the value of the token to the community?
Yeah, I mean, you two here, you guys don't have a token yet,
No.
but you, like for example, Wingbits, they have, you've been doing initially the points, right? And using those points actually to learn before you do like proper TG, which is coming quite soon as well. And how do you see the importance of the community? Because I remember the first time that I played with Wingbits was just like a little terminal commands that you run to install the things that you build in your Raspberry Pi. The community was quite small. And how do you see that the points and feature the tokens was important for the growth of the community? Because you have like a massive community now, and it's growing like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when we started, we just saw that the way it's done now in flight tracking is the incentives are not aligned, or the interests are not aligned between the networks and the community. So we just wanted to figure out a way to share the value with the community. And when we started looking like, well, how do we do this on a global scale? And when you start a company, usually you don't have a whole lot of money when you start it. So utilizing the token is just, it's a very capital efficient way to bootstrap a community on global scale. But it's also, for me, having no Web3 background before this project, it's really challenging to navigate the space, because then, okay, you have your token. First you need to figure out the model, so that the model is fair, like who should earn what, because the incentive is really used to, I guess, try to cause certain behavior. You want people to engage in specific behaviors, and you incentivize for them to do that. But then, okay, well, how do you get stability to a token? How do you launch it? Like, you have all the exchanges need you to work with market makers. Like, I don't know if we can cuss here, but like, how do you not get completely screwed doing that? Everyone is trying to take advantage of you.
That was a pretty low-key cuss. I was expecting something bigger.
But I don't know. There's cameras. But so it's all these things around. Like, I just want to transfer value to the miners for their work, and then the token is also like, the token has a value. That's one aspect, and then I want to provide other avenues of value from the token too. Maybe you can use the token for specific things on the platform that's not monetary, but maybe they're valuable to travel or whatever. So the token for me is just a way to bootstrap a network and scale it and incentivize specific behavior and do it in a capital efficient way, and hopefully transfer a lot of value to the community. That's the value to me.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say things that mostly echo what everyone else has said so far. We look at the token as the gateway to internet capital markets fundamentally, right? Because all of us here are aligned to sort of one thing, which is access global capital in order to be able to solve a serious infrastructure problem. And in order to do that, you need to have some sort of mechanism that aligns the underlying stakeholders that it takes to deliver your service, but also return value to the people that sort of funded the project in the first place. So there is no other mechanism, at least that I know of, that does it as fluidly and as elegantly and as permissionlessly as a token does. So I don't think any of us could have gotten to where we've gotten this far without tokens and without internet capital markets, and of course communities at the end of the day, because you can't do shit without a community.
Yeah, no, without the community, there will be no networks, right? That's the cool thing. One thing that I spent a lot of time thinking recently is like how dependent even the token price and the token economics is actually to the macroeconomics, right? I think that we were briefly discussing before. Is like, okay, if there's a bear market, no matter how good your project's doing, still the price of the token is going to go down. For those who don't have a token yet, or for those who already have the token, how would you model, or how would you think that if for some reason, if you're like mostly macroeconomics, like bear market, if your tokens start to approach, going to zero, what are the things that you would think that you need to do to make the community excited again? Or would it that even matter? Because I feel that a lot of times projects have the tokens hype to bootstrap the initial phase. Sometimes you already have part of that already built. Do you need to continue building this hype and trying to grow the token if you have a sustainable company or something like that?
So I think it depends on the use cases that the depends are after. Like in our case, we needed the initial traction from the hype of the token speculation and everything to build a substantial, a big enough network of weather stations so we can start engaging with customers, like B2B customers. Today we're in a position to enter a country and speak with a local company and say that, for example, in India, that we already have 1,000 stations because DABA did an amazing job and deployed them together with their own equipment, which was a great example of a collaboration between two different projects. And so we have this luxury today, which means we can afford not to have the best market conditions on our token. We have revenue from customers, and that revenue by design, by tokenomics design, partially goes to the token, so we have buybacks and locks. But of course, we are handicapping a Deepin project if the token price goes to zero, because there's a lot of mechanisms that we have that are token related, like the quality of data mechanism that we had to create in order to identify the good from the bad station deployments, is using the token penalties as a mechanism to push the individual station owners to fix their problems. So we will lose that. So that means the quality of the network eventually will degrade, and that's going to be a problem. Also, expanding the network will be a problem. But the good thing, and one of the things that I love about crypto projects, I think if they're done right, they are very difficult to die. You cannot kill them. Like, they can survive like cockroaches. And that gives them, more chances of success down the road. Because, like, for example, in our case, we have been preaching about parametric weather insurance on chain since our birth, which is many years before the crypto pivot, actually. And the market is not there yet. So we need more time. But we are there in the sense that we are acting as a weather oracle already. We have all the infrastructure there. We are the only company in the world that has cryptographic proofs on weather conditions. So we are the perfect infrastructure, the perfect substrate for that market. And we're actually trying to accelerate that market by making our own experiments, our own pilots, our own insurance products that we're going to launch in the near future. So yeah, I think the important part is to survive long enough to succeed basically in those crazy missions that we have undertaken.
Just have a question there to follow up on your answer. So you mentioned penalizing people in the case of deployments that might have issues or what have you. In the case of DABA and your collaboration with DABA in India, those 1,000 devices, is my understanding that the deployer of those is not just like community members, they're actually like, what do you call them?
Local cable operators.
Yes, exactly. So in that case, would that make it so token going to zero doesn't affect the bad deployment or bad deployment issues?
It would affect the deployment. Well, it couldn't initiate the deployment, because there was an element of incentive for the users who were actually doing the deployments, because DABA is forwarding the tokens to them. So if we started with a token price being zero, it would be very difficult to start. But now, at the stage that we are today, we have I think, endless opportunities to like fix our problems because we managed to have a substantially big enough network.
And I think that sometimes it's even more more work, more energy that you need to put to take down a deployment that's, you put so much effort, care, you make the thing like work autonomously. And then if you want to take it out, it's more work than it needs. So you have the device that's, even though you're not making a lot of money from that, is providing some sort of value to the network. And if you want to take it down because you're angry that you're not making Lambos, it's more work to take it down, so just keep it running. I think that's the story of Helium IoT. Like I have all my Helium devices that are still up. I just keep it there because it's more work than not.
But that actually shows like what Mano said, which is resilience, right? So you can build out a network, and once the network is up, even if the network's not necessarily making that much money, it's still going to be alive. And as all of us know, in any sort of business or anything, the name of the game is survival. If you're up and alive long enough, every dog's going to have its day. So you never know.
Yeah, but I think it's also a big portion, at least this is my belief, is that you need to provide value in many ways in your platform, because like if a platform provides enough value to a person besides the token, then the token has less of an impact as it inevitably goes up and down. Yep. But if the token is the only thing you're getting, then you live and die by the token only. But if you have a lot of different value streams coming in, let's say, I use my DABA points to go get groceries. It's a bad example, but then it's like, okay, well, I don't care because I can get a steak. For my DABA points. Yeah, the value goes up and down, but I love steak, so I'm going to exchange it for that. So if you can do different type of value streams or different type of products you get access to through the token, then I think you're less reliant on just the price. But then I also think the name of the game is just enough revenue. If you have enough revenue, you have a lot of flexibility to either affect the token or you will be able to reward people if you have enough revenue. So I think the trick is getting to that revenue really fast. As fast as you can, before that maybe would ever happen.
Just wanted to add on this, Robin, that depending on the use case that the project is about, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's really difficult to give additional, benefits to the community. Like looking back at Helium, which is easy for us to criticize, like especially on the IoT network, like they didn't give anything other than tokens to anyone who was deploying an IoT gateway. And LoRaWAN technology, even still today, is not useful to the average, consumer. Like there's no ordinary LoRaWAN sensors that one can deploy. These are, for professional use. But you're right, like there's always ways that a project like, for example, in your case, it sounds like for you guys it's also a little bit difficult, but you described some use cases that make sense. And
yeah. It is very useful, because if you take Spexy, I like their model a lot, because they essentially, when we started, I think we're similar to WeatherXM, we need to reach a certain scale of network before we can generate substantial revenues. With Spexy, they need like, okay, we want to pay you to map this city. So they started with a stable coin payout, which now they're obviously going to do their token, but they can start generating revenue sooner because of their business model. So I think just knowing that ahead of time, because then you can kind of forecast like what scale do we need to get to, and when we get to that scale, what are the sales cycles, how long is it going to take to generate revenue, and then you kind of have to try to figure out your tokenomics based on that. But I don't think there's a playbook. I think every project has a bespoke playbook, and I don't think there's a silver bullet that works, because I don't think anyone has truly figured out there's going to be different models in the future, that I'm sure are going to be better and more sustainable. I think we're all just learning as we go, and we're making incremental improvements. But just for the almost 2 years I've been in Web3 now, there's more and more really good projects coming out, and people are actually trying to do real things. So I do think it's just now a matter of time before someone, figures out a model that is sustainable for our types of use cases.
And I think it's very exciting for me personally on the Deepin area. That's project is so different. Like I think the Spexy is the exception over all the Deepin projects. The way that they can manage to, like very very specific, already start selling a product in a very specific location, while Wingbits, for example, you need the chicken and egg problem. You cannot have like a master product. But like you were saying, I really like to have the wing bits in my home. I want to open the dashboard and be able to see all the planes, click and see the picture of the plane. It's not like I'd say a massive value for me, but it's a very fun thing to have, and that alone would avoid me from turning it off. Same thing with the weather station, right? You have a weather station in the rooftop of your house. You have way more data than you could have, for example, on checking like your phone, for example. So I think small values already are enough to get people motivated to not go actively turn things off. And
Yeah, on that, I think if you can find a project, it's okay, if there's people building out there that obviously you want to have the demand side, make revenue, but actually something that the deployer or potentially ringware or watchware, there's like WatchX out there, Kudos Ring, if you can find a project like that where there's actually true value to the individual as opposed from just, you know, getting a few dollars here and there, especially in the short term, if you have it years and years and maybe this deepen eventually pops off and you're making all this money, we all hope for that. But if you could have this a product that could have true value on a day-to-day basis for you as a user, this is maybe the sweet spot, and hopefully there can be some deepins that really do a good job here.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm just cutting, but I think what's really exciting is there's so many things that people do for free. Like there's
Flight Radar, for example.
Yeah, but I mean, people like weather, people like air quality, people do flight tracking. Like if people do it for free now as a hobby, and then those businesses that get that, you know, mapping, like Waze was like a free, you know, and then it was acquired for a lot. So if people do it for free already, then you can probably enhance that product quite a bit by adding a deepen model to it to kind of spread incentives. So if they do it for free, then it's probably a good idea to do a deepen.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a hobbyist and you're going to get paid for something that you've been doing for the past few years, that's a huge benefit, right?
Yeah, and it also adds, like, if it's already done that way, you don't have to re-educate anyone. You just do what they already do in a more efficient way.
Yeah, exactly. Changing subject a little bit. What are the things or mechanisms that you guys have implemented in the past to try to get a community excited? I know some projects, they do, I don't know, giveaways, they do Telegram bots that do some sort of shenanigans. What kind of mechanisms have you guys tried in the past to get the community engaged?
Like, you mean like engaged as in growing or doing like
excited about the project, or for example, get people to share things to get more people to know the project?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've done some campaigns, referral campaigns and stuff like that, doing some questing campaigns, doing a bunch of giveaways, like more fun things. But I think, at least if I was in a project, I would just want to see that things are moving in a good direction. So I think what we're trying to focus on is just like continuously coming out with like some type of announcement that we're moving in the right direction, we're making progress. You know,
yeah, I mean, I agree. You want to have a serious community that's genuinely aligned with what you're doing. There's always this temptation to do like airdrops that have quests aligned to them, that are built on social things, that are gamified and all of that. And of course, there is a certain component of that you have to do. But by and large, I think for Deepins, at least all of us, our mindset is way more, you want serious people in the community who have a long-term perspective, who understand the value of what's being built, and also have a little bit of patience versus when Lambo like 24/7, right? Yeah.
When TG? No, that's exactly. I don't know if you guys want to have.
You know, in retrospective, I think maybe we didn't do something to the direction that you're saying that we should have done. When we started the project, like in the first year or so, 50% of our community was not actually entering wallets into when they were claiming a station. So this gave us the signal that we have a lot of weather enthusiasts, that they're doing it for the weather. So we prioritized to give them the best possible weather forecast, and this is like one of our core services. We use the station data to train custom models for every point that we have a station, and today we're proud to share statistics with open data that prove that on average we're better than the largest government meteorological models. Like we are better than NOAA, better than ICON, better than ECWMF on average at the locations that we have stations. And we thought that would be enough of an incentive since we have so many weather enthusiasts. Today, I think more than 90%, it's probably closer to 95 of the community has a wallet in our app. So they figured out the crypto element. So, which means that now they want more. Probably they want crypto stuff. And we are a little bit late into doing some of the typical crypto gamification elements or incentives basically to the community beyond the boring weather forecasts.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can definitely do, like, for example, partnerships like ours, right? We're able to do things where you've got two communities that are seriously interested in the DeepIn space, and you're able to cross-pollinate both those communities. Or take, for example, this partnership that we've got with Bonk, where we're trying to bring the DGen community into DeepIn's as well, right? So I think there's a ton of really interesting things that you can do to engage communities, but I think all of us try to avoid just frivolous nonsense because we're here to solve serious problems at the end of the day.
And from my side, being at IoTeX, when we bring in great projects into our ecosystem, that gets our community excited. So around 8 months ago, we launched Crypto's Got Talent. It's basically the Shark Tank of the crypto world. And Polygon gave us $500,000 to be their grant allocator for the DeepIn space, because they saw us as at the forefront of DeepIn for the last 3 years. And the whole ethos behind it is, let's build in public, let's make this very open. So many of these grant allocation programs and VC deals done behind closed doors. Let's make it open, let's make it public, let's get the community excited about it. And here we are 8 months later, 40,000 views per episode. Zero G is coming to be the sponsor of season 2, so now we're looking at DeepIn AI and RWA projects. And we just did an awesome pitch competition at our event a couple days ago at the Real World AI event. Had some amazing judges. Daniel, thank you so much for being there. And Robin, also one of the judges. And we had 15 amazing projects come through, and this is what gets the community very excited, is projects coming into our ecosystem, being introduced to the ecosystem and to the community.
Yeah, man, thanks so much for leading that. I think it was super fun, right? It was
awesome.
like, how many, 15 projects that we did?
It's a lot of work. Over 2 hours, they're coming through really quickly, I know, but thank you guys for your attention.
But it's exciting. I think everyone here, who are here or at home, check Crypto Got Talent. It's a great way to also find early projects. Get 3-minute pitches, so plus 3 minutes of us the judges grinding the people. I think I really like it. I learn a lot from these events, and I think a lot of people as well, and giving opportunities for those early stage projects. One thing that I've been in crypto for a long time, but I don't consider myself like a DJ or anything like that. What are the things on the Web3 world that you guys don't like? Because we are like engineers, or we've been building businesses. On DeepIn, one thing that I'm really passionate about is people trying to build real companies with real revenue. Unlike, I'd say, 90-95% of the crypto out there. What are the things that you guys wish that didn't exist in crypto, at least on DeepIn? Because you have to, you're going to do a listing, then you need to find ways to grow your X account by 150,000 followers, which is kind of BS at the end of the day. So it's a lot about eyes and hype. What if you guys had to remove some things? What would that be?
So one thing that I'm surprised that we haven't, as an ecosystem, managed to get rid of is vanity metrics. And to give a specific example, all the projects are trying to list their token on the top exchanges. And top 20 exchanges are very hard to get in. And they will, we've talked with a bunch of them. And one of the things that they were asking us was, they wanted us to have a huge number of in size of in the optics of the community. So they wanted hundreds of thousands of followers in Twitter and Discord and all that stuff. At the same time, all of the projects are using bots to create fake followers. And everybody in the industry knows that, and the exchanges know that as well. So I was naive enough to think that if I explain to them that in our project, we don't use bots, we don't have fake followers because there's no point, because the bot cannot take the weather station and deploy it on a roof. So we have like 10,000 weather stations, that means 10,000 real humans. But still the industry evaluates the project as being a project with 10,000 bots, so maybe like 100 users. And everybody knows this, but we're not doing anything to change that.
Yeah. From my side, I can't say it's like I'm completely against it, but because I think the crypto and speculative thing is actually very fun. I do all the meme coin stuff. I got my meme coin trading buddies, but they're in the back. They actually got me mic'd up on a separate stream right now. We have a lot of fun with that stuff. Sky, hey. But with that being said, I wish sometimes we could just focus on the building and then not have to worry about the distraction. Sometimes I envy like the pre-TGE projects because you can have more focus on just building. I think if you can delay launching your token as much as possible, that's great because it's so important to have that business and that revenue in place before launching the token, because otherwise the speculation can be a huge headache.
I think the same thing. Like the vanity metrics is definitely one thing. I think to a large extent it's pay to play, which I don't think it should be, based on how you are as a project. I think there's a lot of predatory companies out there that will want to do certain things with you for TG that you have to navigate. I think the challenge is, if you have an exchange, their metric, their KPI is trading volume. That's how they make their money, right? Well, we have different KPIs that are important, so those are not aligned. And I think that's where the challenge for me comes in, because you're trying to please two worlds, which doesn't always take you towards like where you need to go as a business. I think that's a big challenge. I think that's why I think the industry needs to mature as these projects come out, because maybe long term that's not the sustainable way for an actual business. It makes total sense for a meme coin, or if the token is the actual product, then it makes total sense. But if the product is the product and the token is an enabler of the product, then it's challenging. So I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, because there's also a lot of upside if it's done well, but it definitely can be a distraction where you're focusing on like token management. Pre-TG is one thing, and then post-TG is another thing. Just because you do TG doesn't mean it's over. It's kind of, that's the start. And it's really expensive. It's really difficult. Sometimes there's no logic involved in it. So that's a little bit, mainly because I haven't done it before, so it's definitely an unknown. So it's a hard.
Yeah, I mean, nothing to add here. I agree. Everyone hates vanity metrics, and I hate them as much as everybody else.
But it's funny what you said. They categorize your 10,000 as 100. It's funny stories separate. But like we're doing a funding round for one of my previous companies, and the board's like, yeah, just when you do the forecast, just do it like 4 times higher than you think, because they know you do it higher, so they will slash it. So if you don't make it higher, they'll slash your accurate forecast, and you're screwed. So it's a weird world.
Yeah, but I think what you said makes a lot of sense, right? Because we're trying to build real businesses with a long term. Like think more. We're a Web2 company with a little dash of Web3, and we're trying to compete with, meme coins, for example, which they do have value, but their value lasts a week. Yeah. And you guys are trying to build a valuable company that lasts years. So it's a very different, like, how many meme coins people trade, right? How many different devices can you deploy? Unless you were like, some super deployers, people do like 1, 2, 3 more. And a lot of times they're not even that into crypto, like, weather station, people like are into weather, so they get into WeatherXM, and then they probably lose money in meme coins because someone told them to buy afterwards. I think that's like the fight that we are into, and that's like my personal fight as well, because I really like crypto. I even like meme coins sometimes. I like the community aspect, but how can we align, right? I gotta release a token, but definitely I have 10,000 antennas out there, and it's actually a really, really good metric, but not the metric that exchanges are used to, because also they probably don't even understand what you're trying to build. 90% of the projects they've been working with is just like a bunch of like 15-year-olds that like on TikTok promoting something that 90% of the people are going to lose money on. It's very conflicting, like I can see the positive and downside on both sides. So it's not, I guess, one answer for everything. Same thing as Deepin, not everything should be follow one playbook. What is something that you tell someone that's thinking about start a Deepin project right now? And what is the last question? What would you ask them? What would suggest you do to someone that's starting a new project?
Validate the business case before you start building anything. Actually make sure that you have a real demand side, so you don't waste your own time building something that no one will ever pay for.
Yeah, I'd go with learn to get comfortable in public and be able to communicate with the community. I think all of us have gone through this painful exercise of not necessarily wanting to be a public-facing figure, but then really learning how to do that. So along with validation of do you have a real business, learn to be comfortable with marketing and creating content and sort of being the face of your organization.
Demand side is so important. So if you have a project that has that demand side, everything else is gravy. Just find that demand and everything else will follow.
Yeah. I guess all these points are valid. I cannot think of something different. But there's there's the other side as well. Like engineers are introverts, so it's difficult for them to do what you just said. And also building demand, finding product market fit without the crypto element, that's also hard. 9 out of 10 startups fail anyway. So when you take this statistic and you add hardware on top and a crypto, that's 3 companies into one. So you tripled your risk basically. So yeah, I wish that we had better advice.
Gotta do it. Well, thanks so much for listening. I think
Thank you.
we're done with time, and let's build.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.